Hi there. Thank you for joining me again. When I left off last time, I had just arrived at my parents' house. This video will, I'll attempt to detail some of what happened while I was there. A lot took place over the course of the month and a half or so that I was there. I can't go over all of it. It would just take far too long. But there are some really important incidents that happened. In the beginning, I did feel safer there. One of the things that made me feel safer was that it was, while it was a familiar place, I had not had the time to, I hadn't been there since before this OCD had set in. So it wasn't an environment that I had become, that would set off these OCD events. Though, as I became more familiar with the environment, I did start having repetitive actions with this place. It was just the nature of that OCD. I may not be describing that very well. I'm sorry. Things went well for the first week or so. My mother appeared to be helpful. I was not taking any medication. We were considering getting me into a doctor whom I'd seen before and was currently at that point my mother's doctor. I liked him. I had only seen him once or twice before, but I really liked that doctor, and we were trying to set up an appointment. I really was hesitant about taking medication. I don't like SSRIs, and I've never had them, and I don't want anything to do with them. I may talk about that a bit later on, but in between the time that I arrived at my parents' house and the time that I saw the doctor, the amount of help, the issues that I dealt with while living with my parents growing up seemed to resurface, and it appeared that roles were seemingly reestablished in an unhealthy way. Or maybe not roles. I think that my parents started seeing me as the child, and I realized that they hadn't evolved to be able to communicate really any better than they ever had, and that was always a real problem. My mother also started to exhibit behaviors that she appeared to be trying to test my limitations with this OCD. At first, she was very accommodating, but then it appeared that she was trying to see what would happen if she created an environment that would set this off. There were a lot of instances. Most I've forgotten, but there's one incident in particular. This happened prior to going to the doctor. I'd been there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, or probably about 3 or so weeks. When I first arrived, the family dog had been something that was really, I was very concerned that it was going to set me off. This dog was relatively new to the family. My mother and father had bought it about 2 or 2.5 years prior, and they had grown very attached to it. I love dogs. I don't want to give the impression that I grew up with dogs. I absolutely love them. I had wished that I had been able to have a dog in my adult life, but I wouldn't do it while I was renting. I entirely opposed to that. I don't think it's a good environment for a dog to be in, with having to work all the time. But this dog I was very concerned that it would set off an OCD event, and I was worried that the event would require. These are just my worst fears manifesting in the potential for the rituals that I would have to perform in order to overcome this OCD event, to go against the contract that I had made, and the primary elements of that contract were that any ritual that was required of me eventually, and the purpose of that would be so that I could go to sleep. That those rituals would not require me to do anything immoral, anything that would require me to do anything that would hurt someone or something. And I didn't know if I could trust that contract. And I was very concerned that the dog would set something off. And this is going to sound alarming, I'm sure. I was worried that it would require, I was worried that the OCD would require me to harm the dog. I wouldn't have done that. I would have resorted to eliminating myself. I didn't want to do that. I know this sounds just insane. I know. So initially, my parents were willing to board the dog in a shelter for maybe a couple weeks, and I was very grateful. But I had not overcome this thing. And when the dog came back, I explained to my mother exactly what I was worried about, and I was very concerned about being honest with her about this because it sounded crazy. It made me. I was worried that they were going to commit me, and what I asked of them was, firstly, I was entirely honest, and I spoke to my mother about this, and I said I would never harm the dog. If there was a requirement of that by my OCD as a ritual for me to be able to go to sleep and survive, essentially, I would eliminate myself from the equation. And I said, I don't want to do that. I want to beat this thing. But in the meantime, if we can't board the dog anymore because it's expensive, is there anyone that could take the dog for a period of time while I get better? And she said that she had already exhausted that option. I did not witness any phone calls or interactions between her and family or friends. I had to take her at her word. I was skeptical. But I accepted that. And I said, well, what if we keep the dog downstairs? Now, the downstairs was fully furnished. It was the main, we had technically a main entrance upstairs, but we never really used it. The real main entrance was out to the garage, which we would exit the house and enter the house. So the dog would have all the amenities downstairs. My father spent most of his time down there. It was fully furnished. In fact, he slept down there. He had his bed down there. And I just proposed keeping the dog down there away from me so I could not see him, and just for a period of time. And I wanted to impress upon her the importance of this, what the consequences could be. She accepted that. I knew that I was not going to win a popularity contest with this dog. She said, we're not going to get rid of the dog. I said, I'm not asking you to. If we can take some precautions to keep the dog out of sight, that would be, I think, very, very helpful. Now, about either the next day or 2 days later, she'd completely disregarded that, and the dog was upstairs. And I confronted her about that, and she became upset with me and said it was my fault, essentially, for exiting my room. She thought that I would just stay in my room, and I said, anyway, the conversation, I'd like to preface this or mention that in leading up to this, there were more and more conflicts with my mother in particular. And as one of the symptoms of my OCD is I could only engage them so far in a conflict. Even if I knew that I had a valid point to make, I would concede, and I would accept blame, and I would apologize. Now, this was not a healthy way to engage. I mean, I'm not opposed to apologizing. If I'm wrong, I will apologize. But in this circumstance, and I was, I think, laying the groundwork to, I was rewarding my mother for bad behavior, and allowing defeat. And I don't like to say it, I don't like to term it as a fight, but it made conflict resolution impossible, because rather than get to the point of it, if that's even possible, which is very difficult with my parents, I would just concede, admit fault, and apologize. I did the same thing with the dog situation. I accepted that it was my fault for exiting the room, and that maybe I had not been clear with her about the absolute importance of keeping the dog downstairs, even though I had been extremely explicit with the potential dire consequences of what I feared could happen with the dog triggering this. This incident resulted in me losing all trust for my mother. I did not trust her anymore. And I began to piece together a lot of things from my past. I started thinking a whole lot. And I think that I think that she suffers from something. I've likened it to something like Munchausen by proxy, though they never did anything to keep me sick, I don't think. But I think that she enjoys having a certain amount of control over me, and having me be dependent on her. And I think that there are other elements of her that I'll want to test boundaries, even if they're very dangerous boundaries. And this was a very dangerous boundary. This was not something to play around with. And I couldn't trust her after this. I saw the doctor. Upon seeing the doctor, he was really fantastic. He took all the time that I needed to explain to him, and I was terrified to leave the house and go to the doctor's office. He was understanding, and he was very insightful, and he prescribed me something called clomipramine, which is what he deemed to be, using his exact words, the gold standard in OCD treatment. It worked very well, and there were some serious side effects, but I was really willing to, almost any side effect. I was willing to endure anything to beat this thing. He also prescribed me diazepam, Valium. That was upon my, I requested that. My previous doctor was unwilling to prescribe that for me. Now, the reason I asked for that was because it allowed me, it rescued me from, if I was stuck in a ritual loop, just couldn't do it right. So if the contract didn't work and I just couldn't perform a ritual, it might rescue me out of it and allow me to get some sleep, just a little bit, regain my energy and some mental clarity to do the ritual the right way. It also potentially could allow me to take a bit of the edge off of this and allow me to not reinforce bad behaviors, bad repetitious behaviors, which is just further reinforcing this OCD. He did not give me any resistance whatsoever. He prescribed me that diazepam. I was very grateful, and just being able to trust him was enormously beneficial. I'm going to end this video soon and start another. I don't want to make this too long, but the clomipramine worked within about 12 hours. I noticed a difference, and I cannot describe what that difference was. I felt it. I can't describe it though. It was subtle in a way, but I knew that I felt it, and this was not, this was not placebo effect. Something was really happening, and I could feel like it was reworking things and reversing this. And my goodness, it helped me tremendously. I now dare say that I do not have OCD, and I was able to conquer it within a few months. What I have now is the fear, not like the fear that I had, but a residual fear that it will come back. And I do, from time to time, I don't perform repetitive actions, but I give in to things that could reinforce this OCD, and I really try not to, but I'm afraid of it. I am. Now, I took the diazepam a couple of times, just very small amounts. Turns out that with the clomipramine, it actually was not effective at all. But it was nice to have there just for a rainy day, if after the clomipramine, if I ever needed to use it for if used sparingly and in the right situations, it gets a bad reputation, but people are very, people are not good at moderation. And in moderation and understanding what circumstances to use this, it can be a valuable tool. I am going to stop the video here. At this point, I have begun really healing with the aid of this medication. I don't think I would have been able to snap out of it without the medication. Perhaps. But in the end, even with all the side effects, and there were some serious ones, I'll get into that in the next video. I won't spend much time. But in the end, I'm very grateful that medication did what it did, and as quickly as it did it. I'll see you in the next video.